So you talk a lot in your books and in your work about intimacy. I'm curious, how does this material speak to this topic today of narcissism and gaslighting?
Well, first of all, everything is relationships. Relationships with the different parts of ourselves, with our past, present, and future, with other people, our relationships with spirit, and so on. We're intensely social. And narcissism and gaslighting are particular forms of relating that tend to be pathological in their unhealthy forms. And so it's important to understand what is healthy relating and what is unhealthy relating. In a way, that's part of the developmental journey for all of us, starting from the very beginning. And an integral understanding of narcissism and gaslighting is, in integral theory, we look for what's positive in every perspective. There's a common understanding now that narcissism is pathological self-absorption, objectification of others, and using others for your own purposes with not much capacity for intimacy. There's a common understanding of gaslighting as an evil thing that people do to change other people, to drive other people crazy, essentially to have them believe things that are not true according to their senses. And these are accurate explanations of the pathological forms of narcissism and gaslighting. Another way of saying gaslighting without it being just patently evil is influence, okay? But it's a partial understanding. And so if you expand your understanding, it becomes much more useful to be able to look at these concepts. Mm-hmm. And that's what integral does. It expands understanding. For instance, let's start with narcissism. Mm-hmm. Narcissism is in a way comes from the 20th century psychological bias towards making almost any form of human experience pathological in some situations. You know, you get too high, that's pathological. You get too low, that's pathological. You get too intimate, that's pathological. You get too distant, that's pathological. Talk too fast, that's pathological. You see, it's expanded the diagnostic realm. And so people often, when they get distressed, will throw diagnoses at each other. In integral, we tend to look at problems as developmental arrest. Okay? So let's just look at narcissism. First of all, what is it? And when is it normal? Well, as it turns out, when an infant is about 10 months old, they begin to have a separate sense of self. But for the previous 9.5 months, all they've had is approval in a normal, healthy, good enough mother family. You're the greatest. You know, your body's the greatest, your poop's the greatest, your smile's the greatest, your cry's the greatest. What's wrong? What's wrong? I love you, love you, love you. And then as a child begins to develop a separate sense of self at 10 months old, they go, oh, this is what Margaret Mahler called primary narcissism. I am the greatest, okay? This is isomorphic, this is normal for this stage. And as the child develops a separate sense of self, they also develop a capacity when they're disapproved of to feel a sense of shame. They can begin to blush at 10 and 11 months. Couldn't do it before, not enough separate sense of self. So between 10 and 17 months, about every 9 minutes while that child's awake, it's going to hear no from somebody because kids are getting into things. When it hears that disapproval no, there'll be a little shame, there'll be a little distress, they'll freeze, and a little social learning will take place. And with a securely attached child, after the no, and after no, you can't beat on your sister like that. Okay, starts to cry, you pick them up, 10 seconds, they're back to being happily connected, but a little social learning is taking place. Now with narcissism, and this process continues throughout development, and we learn empathy by people, not by people empathizing with us primarily. We learn empathy by people saying, no, you can't do this because it hurts me. Mm-hmm. So if that normal development, that happens with most of us, except when we're in defensive states where we regress. But with pathological narcissism, it doesn't happen. We might have like a Donald Trump where there's lots of indulging, but no attunement. There might be an abuse history or something. But for whatever reason, the child doesn't develop that empathic bond. Mm-hmm. So In pathological narcissism, there is a consistent sense of other people are there to serve me, to give me my narcissistic supply. They used to say in object relations. Mm-hmm. And if that's your pervasive attitude and other people are objects to serve you, and then when they stop serving you, you're not interested in them, you can't relate. Okay, there's no capacity for true intimacy in that situation. Right. But since development is include and transcend, we all still have that capacity for narcissism. And when do we see it? Well, if you and I go out for ice cream and I get a chocolate, you get a strawberry, my daughter called it strawberry pink. And we sit there, we're really hungry, right? Eating our ice cream, right? I am caught in a moment of just narcissistic self-involvement, and I'm having a great time, and it's all about me and my ice cream. Having it, oh God, isn't this great? We're eating our ice cream. Healthy egocentrism, okay, healthy self-involvement. And we all need to be able to do that. If you can engage in the healthy pleasure of being yourself, enjoying yourself, gratifying some healthy needs, especially, you really can engage in true intimacy, because intimacy involves sharing pleasure, the pleasure of our company, the pleasure of my attention on you, the pleasure of your attention on me. So there's a continuum. There's healthy narcissism on one side, healthy self-involvement, unhealthy narcissism on the other.
Yeah.
Now let's look at gaslighting. Very similar. Let's call gaslighting influencing, because just the term gaslighting comes from, of course, the Sidney Poitier movie, where he was driving his wife crazy deliberately by telling her the gaslight was getting less and less. When is gaslighting normal? Well, about 2 years old, kid learns how to talk. Between 2 and 3, that kid learns an entire language. Kid learns grammar, 1,000 in an educated household, 1,000-word vocabulary. So if you ever had kids, 3 or 4-year-old, you say, hey, look, it's time to go to bed. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it is. You're tired. No, I'm not. I'm not tired. Now, at that point, that 4-year-old is basically experiencing my reality is the best reality and yours isn't. And I want you to have my reality. Well, don't you understand? You're tired. You'll be tired tomorrow. No, I won't. I want to stay up. Okay, that's normal. That's normal little kid trying to gaslight mom and dad. Now, if mom and dad say, oh, of course you're right. You'll be fine tomorrow. You can stay up as long as you want. We're not setting a boundary. We're not teaching the child that there's some realities that they emotionally feel are true, but really aren't true. We're not teaching them empathy, and that child becomes more pathologically narcissistic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I've never really thought about it so in depth as it relates to, right, a child and their upbringing. And I love what you said about the empathy thing, right? We're learning empathy not by others, like our parents or whatever, empathizing with us, but by them telling us what you did just hurt me, right? If you don't hear that, then yeah, I can imagine that makes so much sense that you would not empathize with others as you get older, because you don't understand the impact you're having on them.
Yes. So you take this to the extreme,